Well, welcome. This is episode 6 of Still Rolling. It's episode 6. This is week number 6. I'm actually quite surprised myself, mainly because lockdown is starting to feel pretty long, although things are starting to get a little better and things are starting to get more alleviated. We shall see how that continues. This is the podcast that allows us to welcome guests from all walks of life, all kind of different parts of the industry. And we're having people who are at different stages of their careers, seasoned veterans, the people just starting out, kind of different roles as well, the unsung heroes of sets, all different kinds of things. And this week, we are lucky enough to be joined by Dan Joyce. Hey, Dan.
Hello.
He's here. I can see you. I can hear you. This is wonderful. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. Yeah, I'm just sharing the link on my Instagram, actually.
That's all right. We'll leave you to it for a minute. To be fair, I want to apologise to the audience for last week because we weren't live. Now, we have an absolutely good reason for this. It's Jake, our tech guy behind the scenes, who unfortunately the audience don't get to see. It was his birthday last week, so we had to let him have the day off. So happy birthday for Jake for last week. And I believe it was your birthday yesterday.
It was my birthday yesterday. I still got my balloons up.
I can see that behind you. Did you get up to anything nice?
I went canoeing down the Royal Military Canal in Kent.
Sounds very official.
Yeah,
How'd it go?
20 miles of canal just set back from the shoreline. It was to do with one of the wars we've had.
Did you do 20 miles? Did you all 20 miles?
I didn't know. I'm new to canoeing, so
I'm brand new to canoeing.
A lot of different muscles that I wasn't familiar, and it was also my birthday, so we packed a couple of drinks in there, and we saw these pros came past us, and they went, "Oh, you're taking it very, very leisurely."
Were people showing off? Is that what happened?
Say that again.
Were people showing off?
Yeah.
Putting you in your place. You thought you were the man. You were like, "Yeah, I've got my canoe out here. It's my birthday," and then just zipping past. Oh, mate, it sounds like you had a lovely day. I'm trying to think of when we actually met. I'm going to say it was a long old time ago. I play this game with every one of my guests because some of them are old friends, some of them are new friends. But it's important, I guess, to at least understand at least where we're coming from.
JDM All-Stars, I would imagine.
Yes. Drifting World.
One of the films we were making around that series. Cobham, maybe? Were you there?
Oh, no, I don't think I was.
No.
I'm not sure I was. That was one where you guys got kicked out, didn't you?
I believe so.
You believe so?
I didn't get kicked out. Yeah, I was all right.
You were all right. Why did you get kicked out? Why did everyone else get kicked out?
There was a crash, wasn't there?
What? I don't know. I wasn't there.
Right, yeah. I don't know whether that was why we got kicked out. I think we were too noisy, to be honest with you.
Noise regulations.
Yeah, BR rev limiter was what it was.
Possibly,
Julian Smith.
Possibly a gentleman named Julian Smith. Why did I not see that one coming?
And Cowbatter crashed into him as well.
Oh, that'll ruffle some feathers.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was definitely top-notch insurance on the day as well, and everything was very official, yeah?
I wouldn't like to say.
It's all right, you're just the camera operator, right?
Yeah.
I don't even think it was someone else's problem. This is not the kind of productions we condone, and as evidence has suggested, we've had Andy Harris on the show not too long ago, who was definitely
that was before we met Andy Harris.
That's probably why we met.
We got to meet Andy Harris, and then everything was all official after then.
Listen, there's a couple of things that we want to say to the audience as well. That obviously we're live here, so if anyone's got any questions, we will have opportunity to have a conversation with you guys. If you've got questions for myself or probably Dan, I suppose you won't know anything from me, but you might have questions for Dan. So around the hour mark, we'll open up some questions and see if there's a bit of a dialogue from the public watching us. But otherwise, we'll just get into some stuff that, I mean, obviously our history is one thing, but the reality is that I was aware of you before I even met you because of the show you're on. Now, we won't delve into too much, but I feel like we can't not talk about it. There was definitely a few questions on my mind when I first met you, because it was like, the show had probably just finished around that sort of time, right?
So, yeah, it started in 2002.
The show is Dirty Sanchez, by the way. We just want to make sure that's known.
Yeah. and it went on until 2007. 2006 was the time we did the film, and then we did an advert with Nike. It's in 2007. That was the last time we all worked together.
It's quite funny. I was talking to my junior editor earlier, And I was like, oh yeah, we got Dan Joyce on from Dirty Sanchez. And he was like, what?
Yeah, I've got no idea about it.
I genuinely was like, how? Yeah, but you've heard of Jackass. Like that was, and it was the fact that he just has no idea, and his humor and everything, like who he is as an individual, like all the stuff he's into is like so resonant. That it's like you just are completely unaware of that. For me, it was something that was pivotal in my upbringing. It was like another parent to us. Not necessarily a good one, but in terms of the influences that we had going on at the time. But it certainly was there. It was right on MTV. There wasn't many music channels at the time. There wasn't many places to watch that kind of stuff. Obviously, the internet wasn't prevalent.
It was pre-YouTube, kind of wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess, of course it was.
Yeah, it was. When we started doing the show, there wasn't any YouTube. So, and then to the end of it,
your fault is what we're saying.
Well, the thing is, you can now see anything like way worse than what we do on the internet. But at the time, that was where you went to see that sort of thing.
Which is just insane, isn't it? And that's the thing. It seems to have, I don't even know what would be responsible for kicking it off on the internet and YouTube and stuff, I guess. Give anyone enough of an audience and they'll start prattling about. But I mean, from your perspective, how did that even get started? I don't want to dwell too much on it, but I am actually interested. Like, how does a show like that even get started? Who has the idea of putting that on TV?
Well, because we were skateboarders, so naturally all skateboarders document everything they do anyway. So within any group of skateboarders, there's one guy that's the filmer and he has the camera. So in my group, I was the guy who had the camera. So I was filming stuff from early 90s when I was maybe 15 or 16. And then I went to college and did it at college. And Dainton, he was the filmer in his group from Wales. And he filmed a little scene video where he was from. And then at skate comps, I used to dress up, shall I say. And so it was kind of like streaking and stuff at skate comps, but I used to
dress up.
I used to dress up as a gimp, but it was like a really low rent one made out of bin bags. And I used to run onto the course and act out these different scenarios.
So you look like you just escaped from somewhere, is what I'm hearing.
And then I'd just run off, and then I'd put my clothes back on, and no one would suspect it was me. So I was doing this at some quite high-profile big events back in the 90s.
Come on, I mean,
and then
now's your chance to have this out publicly. I feel like.
Well, Dainton saw what I was doing, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to be in my video I'm going to make?" And I was like, "What are you making?" He said, "I'm making this skate video called Pritchard versus Dainton," and he said it was going to be. They're basically going to have a boxing match at the end, and it was the training. And he said, "I would like to give you a section in it." He said, "Do you want to do anything?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right, I'm up for doing something." And we were at NAS, which is this skate festival in Shepton Mallet, and we were there. And he said, "All right, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "I don't know, I'll poo off a roof if you want." And he went, "You wouldn't, would you?" And I was like, "If you want." So we did that, and then...
How old were you at this time?
Oh, I must have been in my 20s, 21, something like that. And then this video footage, like, he literally wore the tape out from rewinding it and showing it to so many people. And everyone was like, "You would not believe what they've done." And word spread before we'd even made anything about this video. So FHM got in contact with Pritchard. He was working at Globe, which was like a skate shoe company.
Yeah, skate shoes, right?
And they found him there and said, "Oh, we heard you've made this video with someone pooing off a roof. Can we see it?" And they were like, "Well, we haven't really finished it yet, but you can watch our trailer." So we quickly made a trailer and sent it off to FHM, and they ran an article and come and spent the weekend with us. Just based on this.
Do you think they'd still do it these days? Do you think the show...
FHM, they're not even going.
They don't even exist anymore, do they?
No.
I remember it, but it's, I guess, the difference that I don't know what that magazine would be even represented as now, to be fair.
Oh, it's just the internet now, isn't it?
I guess. Just put them all out of business, isn't it?
So they came and spent the weekend with us and then put the article out. And then someone saw the article from Channel 4, I forget the production company, but they did this show called Passengers.
I'm not familiar.
It was like a Channel 4 late night show.
TV was so different then. So few channels.
Rapido Television. I think it was something to do with them. So they come and, in fact, it was the first time that parkour had been put on TV. So we shared an episode with some street racers from Florida,
right,
and some guys that invented parkour. So, and they spent the weekend with us, and then that.
I bet they were thrilled to be on a show with you guys.
Oh no, we weren't all together. It was like a documentary thing, and
they compiled the different clips together.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So then, after that, MTV got in contact with us. This producer, and she was doing a show called Shock Idol. It was round about Pop Idol time. They went, finding Britain's most shocking people. We want some presenters. Are you up for it? And they were like, we're not presenters. And they said, you don't really need to look. You found the most shocking people. So we gave them the video had been done by this time, and we showed them the whole video, and they called us back in. They said, look, we're going to get rid of that original idea for Shock Idol, and we're just going to do it with you guys. But
just
we really
do the
want
show with you guys, yeah.
And because Pancho was in it, said, can you bring him in, because we want him to be part of it.
What on earth?
That was it.
It's just because that environment and that commissioning process, I want to say, is so different now. I mean, obviously because of what the internet became. It sounds like we're 100 years old, doesn't it? It's ridiculous, but that transition happened so quickly. You know, over the course of
18 years ago.
Mate, that's terrifying, isn't it? But no, I appreciate you sharing that with me, because it just seems to me one of those things that I just can't imagine because I deal with pitch documents. I'm dealing with like concepts and formats for shows and documentaries and films like on a fairly regular basis. And I'm like, right, like what does the strapline and the synopsis of that show even say? But I guess that was just someone who's a producer.
Off a roof.
There you go.
And that's how it started.
Oh mate, Jesus. Do you miss that time of life? Do you miss that show?
No, I mean, I've got a child now, so I've had my fair quota of dealing with poo, and I wouldn't want to go back to working with it. But it's weird, because once you get that out of your system, it's gone and dealt with. So I guess from a young age, I wanted to be on TV and I wanted part of fame. But once I experienced it, I wasn't interested in it. What I enjoyed was the creative side of it and coming up with whatever. It wasn't the being on TV myself. So that's why I got into filming.
Huh. So it's more of a creative pursuit rather than just fame for fame's sake.
Yeah, well, it's not
something I'm familiar with. So, I mean, it's very interesting for me to hear what that experience was actually like, because I'm sure you must have gone places and people would have just been like, oh, you're that guy from that show, do something stupid.
But yeah, you'd end up, performing a load of stupid stunts for a load of like muscle heads and like people that I wouldn't have like really been enjoying spending time with, like you'd end up at some house party and there'd be a load of like roid heads and stuff. And I was like, I'm not really into this.
The darker side to it. This was a bit of fun, but I suppose in that regard, yeah, I mean, a lot of us get away with things that don't get on camera, and you're kind of like, I'm kind of happy that wasn't seen. Like, kind of happy that I got away with that, was doing something stupid or, to not get into, we can get into that later, whatever stories we want to attach to those sorts of things, but essentially living your youth on camera and doing all the dumb stuff that everyone else kind of gets away with, but you were like put on show for it.
Yeah, and I've
it must have been fun though, right?
It was very good fun, but it's like any old band, I guess. Once you've been working on the roads and touring and stuff, you go your separate ways. You
guys did a movie and stuff, right?
Life. What's that?
You guys did a movie, right?
Did a movie, yeah, with Vertigo Films, Nick Love's company.
That's so crazy how far it went. I gotta know something. I swear there's a scene in that where someone loses a finger. Did that really happen?
So yeah, so the idea of the show was 7 Deadly Sins. So basically they got us a round the world ticket, and then they tried to loosely make a story from the going around the world.
This is kind of what I'm talking about concept and ideas. It's like, geez.
So they were like, right, how can we divide? Oh, seven deadly sins. Oh, 7 countries around the world. So we just designed a different sin for each country. And then I forget what Japan was now. I think that was greed or envy, something like that.
So that's a while ago. I'm not going to hold you to account on that. No
I can't remember.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
It was all very loose. And then we were going to cut his finger off, like
for real?
a Yakuza type thing. And then we had a health and safety officer, and he was like, well, it's cool, but after we're in Japan, we've then got to go to Dominican Republic, and it's going to be really hot, and you get infections with half a finger, so you won't really be able to film much. So
you're joking.
So we said in Japan, if we can do this scene when we get back to the UK. So it was actually filmed in Stoke Newington, in a flat in a Nissan Skyline that I borrowed, and we just went around that triangle in Stoke Newington, around that corner.
What the hell?
Yeah. So it wasn't actually Japan at all.
But you did it for real?
Yeah. So we were talking about doing it, and
it's going to make Andy Harris cry right now. He is literally at home just wincing at everything you're talking about right now.
Well, yeah, we were trying to work out. So they said there's no point in you cutting through the bone because it's just going to create too much of a mess. And for the look of it, you may as well just take the end off because it's still going to look the same. So they got a cigar cutter and literally just chopped the end of it off. And it was the fastest way of it healing up afterwards.
Oh man, who was drew the short straw there?
Oh, Pritch was always going to do it. He was up. Yeah, he got shot once. We were in.
Sorry, what?
He got shot with a a thingy jacket, bulletproof jacket.
Oh, jeez.
And a shotgun. We did it in Prague.
From what distance?
Pretty close. And but the guy forgot to press record. Like the guy.
Oh my God!
I won't say his name. And it was a stunt that we missed, and Pritch was absolutely screwing that he missed it. So he was like, right, well, I'll just chop my finger off. And that was his kind of like, I'll do it properly this time.
Yeah, he got shot, didn't want to do it twice. I'm not really surprised. I mean, what? For the audience that weren't familiar with the show, this is giving you a little bit of insight into just the kind of stuff that Dan used to get up to. That is so crazy. I mean, surely they're just, I know obviously the whole point of it was just like escalating and you know, it just continually got further and further. But at what point did someone go, yeah, let's just get some body armor and shoot someone?
Well, because we'd done, the first series was sort of like an introduction to us, and we didn't really know what we were doing. So MTV rented us a house for 6 months in Cardiff, and we all just lived in it. And we had a box of props that were always there. And whenever we got drunk or fell asleep, we would just go into the prop room and see what we had. And there was like dildos and mouse traps and stuff in there. So that was what Pancho fell asleep, and we gaffer taped the dildos to his hands and put gaffer tape on the thing, and then woke him up, and he obviously couldn't get them off. So yes, but that took 6 months for us to film, and because we just didn't know what was going to work, so we ended up spending loads of time doing stuff that just wasn't funny. And like we were doing stuff with the members of the public and trying to, sort of prank people or pull sort of jackass type stunts. So we used to go in like one day.
At any point, did a producer get involved and be like, let's actually get a writer into this?
No, it was all very, very loose. We had like a couple of researchers who would, at MTV, they would test out some stuff.
Right.
So one of them said, oh, this is quite funny. If you put an Alka-Seltzer in a film camera case, and then just pop it into your face. And we were like, surely that's not going to be very funny. So we did it, and it was we had one of the best laughs ever just by messing around with those.
Anticipation of waiting.
And like elastic bands just on your head going like that.
It's just so funny how this is like YouTube stuff now. It's just so funny, isn't it?
So there was all this stuff planned out, and then we said, like, why are we wasting our time? Why don't we just go to B&Q and we'll look down the aisles and work out what we can hurt ourselves with? So whenever we turned up somewhere new, we'd just go into B&Q and look and buy a load of things that that was the thing. If you had the idea, you had to be the first one to do it.
Surely is that where the show stopped? Everyone was just like, nah, I'm not even going to suggest this because
that's the
done.
thing. I never told them what my biggest fear was, in case. So I just said, no, I'm not scared of anything, because I knew that they were going to get me with it. So my biggest fear was being trapped in a room full of birds.
Oh man,
yeah,
is that Kubrick? Is that the issue?
The way they No, when I was a kid, one flew into my room like a pigeon, and I was in the bottom bunk, and it was flapping around my head, and I couldn't get it out of the room, and it was pecking against the window like that.
Oh man,
yeah, it's really
very visceral experience that you didn't want to repeat.
But I've told them now, so luckily I'm not doing that again.
Oh man, when was the last time you saw those guys?
We did a reunion at Christmas time. We did 2 shows, one in Cardiff and another one in Sheffield. It's like
and now you're never going to see them again because you've revealed the fear on the show.
Yeah, well, someone just brings a load of birds out on stage.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I feel partially responsible for this trauma now. We brought this phobia to real life, but I appreciate you sharing it anyway. Things have obviously moved on quite elaborately since then. I mean, obviously you're married, you're a father now, different responsibilities, different interests. And I mean, of course, straight away, the thing that obviously we met and we're a part of is this creative field. We're both learning, I guess, at the same time. I don't know how far along you were in that when I first met you, to be fair.
Yeah, so when I've been filming skateboarding since I was 16, and then after Dirty Sanchez, well, when it was coming to an end. Oh, that was it. It was the Gumball Rally. So I did the Gumball Rally
I met you on this as well, I think. You had this drift car thing, right? You had the
Nissan S13 with S15 front on it. So I did the Gumball Rally in 2006 with Richie Warren, who used to run the Fuel Girls, yeah. So I was friends with him because I used to get booked to do car shows, to do like personal appearances. All of us did.
Of course, post the show, yeah.
Yeah, so I got to know Richie through doing these car shows. And then we were talking about the Gumball. He said, oh yeah, I've been doing it for years, since the first one. And we were all like, I'd love to do that. He said, yeah, I can sort that out. I'm friends with Max. So he organised for all of us to go on it, and Pritch couldn't do it for some reason. He was doing a pilot. He had to live in a chicken shed with Pancho for a week. And I said, you're going to sleep in a chicken hutch for a week as a pilot show instead of coming on the Gumball? He was like, yeah. I was like, oh no.
Has he lost his mind by this point, surely, you're thinking?
Well, yeah, and it was just a pilot that never came to anything, and he missed out on doing the Gumball for that.
What was that like? I actually, weirdly enough, we'll get into that in a minute. I weirdly enough had a minor experience with the Gumball, but yeah, feel free to indulge.
Yeah, it was the heyday of the Gumball, really, I think. And we drove from London down to Serbia, and then we flew from Serbia to Phuket in Thailand, and then we drove from there up to Bangkok, and then flew from Bangkok to Salt Lake City.
That is a serious trip.
And then drove from Salt Lake City to Vegas, where Snoop did a private gig, and then ended up in the Playboy Mansion 8 days later. So, and Richie was filming it all in my car, and he rigged it all up with little cameras, had a little switching unit in. And then I was like, yeah, no one's filming like car stuff. And I was like, I need to film car stuff like skateboarding. So I bought a Sony V1E and bought a Century Optics Ultra Fisheye for it.
I was about to say, I saw you rocking around with a fisheye at some point. You definitely had that skater look going on for sure.
Yeah, and that was kind of my thing. So I was like, well, I'll just film the car stuff like skateboarding. And I used to just get the fisheye and just, so you could have a conversation with someone and just hold it here
and get everything.
Keep talking to them. Yeah, and it didn't feel like I was going like that, and people just would talk to me normally, and that was kind of like the whole. So I used to just go and talk to people and just have the camera there like that, and
it's an interesting style, but it's so funny that we like. Are you aware of Stefan Bonini? Are you aware of Clash Production?
Yeah, I don't know him. I've never met him, but I know his work. Yeah,
but it's so funny. Like we had him explaining his style and his way he gets his shots, and ultimately that intimacy that he's able to achieve. And it's just so funny to hear the contrasting styles. It's like essentially the same thing, like able to get really close to people with wide lenses, but like spending an inordinate amount of time with that person to like close the gap in between them and like make sure
just
they're
go
closer.
straight up to them and start talking like that.
To be fair, we had a lot of fun looking at those videos, and it was a real fun way of watching it in those events. And I think, it was interesting to see how those different styles kind of came together in that regard. Because you got me and Al hanging out the back of an MX5. Again, much to the dismay of Andy Harris. Like, he keeps getting a shout out, but we kept upsetting him. What do we have? Do you remember that? We had the me and Al Clark had an MX5 with a tripod.
Yeah, loads of bungee cords and stuff, wasn't it?
Bungee cords. Yeah. Camera on top of the tripod, and me
and a jump halfway round.
Oh man, yeah. So the racetrack we were working on had a jump in it, and for some reason,
racetrack's a car park.
Sorry. that is doing it too many favors. Clearly, I remember things slightly more romantically.
It was a car park with a section that was like that, with
next to Wembley.
Yeah,
they'd painted some lines on and was a racetrack now for our purposes. And it was just the loosest thing ever. It was like, right, cool, send this. It was a drift car, of course, but it wasn't anything near a race car. It was like, oh, cool, bolt in a roll cage and you're good to go. Send that thing down there. We'll have it behind us, and hopefully it won't catch us. By the time we get to the first corner, it slides in first, and we're going to try and hold on to the camera, strap me into the car. I think I just had a seatbelt around me, I think. And it was just like standing up, facing backwards out of the MX-5 and sort of like wielding it was a Sony EX3, that's what it was, out of the back, and just kind of pointing and shooting and like aiming the frame somewhere towards the car and trying to get the car in frame. But to be fair, those were actually a lot of fun. We actually got some good stuff out of that, or at least in our memories. It was good fun. But no, it was generally a good time, wasn't it, to be fair? So that was obviously where we first, found each other. And we worked together a couple of times since, to be fair, but then we just kind of did our own thing. And
I stopped doing all car stuff altogether, actually. Yeah. I was doing a job for Monster, actually, filming some mountain bikers. And I was like, and I just sort of had like I was like, I should stop filming cars because I didn't really, it's not good for the environment and all that lot. And I was like, I should really be doing stuff that, is promoting a better lifestyle. But not that energy drinks are any good for anyone, but I literally had like a little vision, and I was like, no, I should stop doing cars and just focus on stuff that's promoting a better lifestyle.
Well, mate, to be fair, it's some incredible foresight of you.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little while ago. So
yeah,
good man. I mean, it's hard to work out where to go next with your prolific career, because it's all well and good talking about the TV days and all this stuff, but the reality is you've done a whole bunch of stuff with cameras, and you what you're doing in your own right with Joyce Division, your company, right? Fan of the name. You've just been going from strength to strength, and I've just witnessed that. It's been really fun, actually. It's really weird, this wonderful world of the internet, isn't it? With Instagram and all that sort of fun stuff. I can see what you're up to, and we don't have to talk to each other. So I get to know what you're up to, like a little weird spy over here. I see all this cool stuff going on. I think the last thing, I see a couple of things. I'm like, how did he even come up with that? You had this, I don't know what it was. I forget the technology. You have to remind me, but it was the, you had Slimer from the Ghostbusters.
Oh, yes.
In one of the clips. What on earth was that about? How do you do this? You have to check out Dan's Instagram for this, by the way.
Yeah, I've got it upstairs. I should show you what it is, actually, because you'll be amazed when I show you.
We'll leave it up to the audience. We'll come back to it later.
Yeah. So when you show a
when
clip,
you need a wee later, we'll come.
Yeah, when you show a clip, I'll quickly run up and I'll go and get it because it's a pixel stick.
Right.
So, but I made it. Well, the one I've got, I've made, but this was a
You made it.
Yeah. So, are you familiar with Adafruit?
This is me.
Right.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Arduino boards, like about a Raspberry Pi.
Yes, yeah, little computer, right?
Yeah, so Arduino boards are like Raspberry Pi, but even smaller, and they can program LEDs to fire at different intervals over different periods of time, and then you can program it. You can write the image onto an SD card, put that in, and it will make whatever image you want over LEDs over a period of time. So you just have one line of LEDs, and then you have your SD card inside it, and you do long exposure photography, and you go like that, and it makes whatever you want in the air. And then you take the photos. And
you had some really good results with this. I was really like,
animate them all together.
Yeah.
So I was animating this pixel stick, and the Slimer image was just a free one you got off their website.
It looks so cool. I was like, how did you do this?
You can put anything you want in there. So I've built my own one, and yeah, you could just put your image on the SD card, put it in long exposure, and it will write whatever you want in the air.
But I think what's so fascinating about this sort of stuff is that it's just so far away from where my kind of brain is at creatively. And it's just so weird. I'm like, I love it to bits. When I saw that, I was like, that's so cool. But like, it's funny, you have these different parts of your career where I don't know if you felt the same way, but certainly for me, you kind of evaluate yourself creatively and like, is that where I'm at? Am I that good? Is this what I'm doing? And you kind of figuring yourself out, I guess, getting to know your own style and things. Immediately I knew we were on different sort of mental planes with our creativity, but I was always enamored with those things. I was like, what? How did you even come up with this? Where did you even find it?
Yeah, I started working with developers and stuff, and then programmers and coders and people who write different like filters for, like I did this job with Nike, and it was like a live streaming event. But I started working with all the people that wrote the code to affect this live broadcast. So if you tweeted in different commands, your image that you got would have these different, I guess they're just like filters now, but this was back in 2012, 2013, so it was all quite new, and that tech was all quite new. Yeah,
I mean, it's still in its the way it's executed, still is very unique, isn't it? In any regard. It's just always fascinating to me to see where those different things come from. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you never really evaluated it and went, how did I come up with that idea? But it just became very interesting to me.
It was working with skateboarders. So a lot of skateboarders that I knew from when I first started skateboarding, which was before Dirty Sanchez, have all gone in and into different creative careers. So, like Palace Skateboards, I knew a lot of those people through years ago, and I've been I filmed a few things with them. Just
where did you meet them? With these skate competitions and stuff you were streaking at, or
yeah, so all of my friends are based around those times, because it was very small. So there was only like 4 or 5 skate parks in the country, and then if there was a skate comp, like every single skater would go to them, and you got to know every skateboarder in the country because it was such a small community.
How is that different now? I mean, I'm kind of
aware.
There's
a skate park in every town now. But before,
that's a wonderful thing.
Probably only 5 or 6 in the country.
Yeah, I remember rocking around at 13 to 15 years old with a BMX and sort of trying to scope out places and hopping on buses and ending up in the other end of the country and going like, oh, cool, there's an indoor skate park here. And then like a year later, it's shut down. You're like, damn. Yeah. And there's like some loose end of town, some like junkyard somewhere where you're like going to go and BMX and skate and stuff. And it's just like, cool, I got a black eye today. So lost a few teeth. That's cool. had to call the police and get them involved. Like that was kind of how it was for us when we were kids.
How old are you?
Me?
Yeah.
I am 32 in 1 month's time.
Oh, see, I'm 44.
So we experienced different eras of that skating.
Generation before you, yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, it's interesting to see how those things, because I guess it was starting to change as I was going through those ranks, but I started bouncing my head off of stuff and really started hurting myself on a BMX and started doing bigger and crazier stuff. And I was like, this actually hurts now. I mean, to be fair, I tried to pick up a BMX a few years ago and did the same thing. I went to Adrenaline Alley in Corby with a good friend of mine, Martin Cooper. He was a very talented chap, and we were trying to do backflip training into the foam pit there, and that did not go so well. I bent a BMX frame fully in half.
Flipping it.
And I was like, if that had been me,
yeah,
I would be
dangerous foam pits.
I was like, oh, in my head, this is a safe place.
No.
But now I've recently picked up a much more safe pursuit, which is skateboarding. Skateboarding, yeah. I've now decided to become a skater.
Well, there's less metal to get caught up in.
I don't know, man. I've hit the deck a few times now, and I had to call the doctor yesterday. No bullshit. I was like, I've hit my arm really hard on the ground. Nothing's broken. I just want to make sure nothing's actually wrong. It's like, it still hurts after like a week. She was like, I don't think skateboarding's for you, Josh.
No. Well, it depends what sort. Like if you do pool skating,
yeah,
you can get away with not doing that much and still look quite good.
To be fair,
if you can skate a pool, that's pretty badass. So
we're starting to figure this out.
Is just get to the top and look like you know what you're doing.
Oh, mate, this is absolutely what I need. This is the advice I need right now. We're enamored with the pool because obviously, you know, the movies, Dogtown and all that sort of stuff, and affectionate about those from many years ago anyway. And then it's like, oh, hold on a minute. You know who it was? Extreme Sports Channel sent me a skateboard.
Yeah.
And it was in the garage. And I was like, right, let's just push it around, see if this works out. And if I don't fall off and die in the first couple of days, I'm sticking with it. We'll see how it goes. And it got that far, and then I was like, well, I'm buying a skateboard. Right now I've got my own one. And now I feel like a professional. I'm like, I'm rocking around. What deck?
What skateboard did you get? Yeah.
Oh, mate, do you know Matt Murray?
No.
This is a really good friend of mine, incredible camera operator, Matt Murray. I just basically bullied him. I was like, Matt, I love this skating stuff, but this board sucks. So I need to get some new stuff. It's not turning. It's not so good. And he's like, look, get a skateboard, get a good one now. So you learn on a good one. It turns properly. The trucks work. And then you can work on that stuff. So I was like, I just basically bullied him into getting it, all the bits and pieces. We went through it and I was like, cool, right. Solid deck. He was like, it doesn't really matter to you. Right? You can tell me if he's lying to me right now. Deck doesn't matter too much on the brand. As long as it's a reputable brand, it'll be a good solid start. Trucks wise, height's a different thing. So like stick to a good brand, venture independent. I went independent because I went to go for a slightly higher one.
Best, yeah.
Yeah, it was solid there. And they got some Spitfire wheels.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Nice, not hard plastic ones. Hard urethane, sorry. Yeah, hard urethane. And good solid size. And it's working so far, so good.
And what deck did you go for?
Element deck.
All right.
I would grab it, but I think it's in the car, actually. But mate, I'm absolutely loving it. But it's interesting to see as well, like how much of those kind of skateboarding videos that meant nothing to me when I was a BMXer. I was watching like demolition videos with like ripped off soundtracks. These were pretty much punctuated not only my musical taste, but my like all of my taste as a kid. Seeing these BMXers wreck hard, but then like it's got Pat Benatar and Iggy Pop and all this sort of stuff as soundtracks. And now I'm looking back at those videos. I'm like, how did they get those tracks for those videos?
They did pay for it.
I couldn't believe it. And it's like, and then obviously when I started making clips myself, I'm like, oh, cool. I'll just put this whatever track on there. And then I get like this, oh, this is a copyright infringement. What's that?
Yeah. But the thing is, back in the day, you know, you would have made a DVD and just sold it in your local BMX shop, and no one was checking where the music, but you know, there was probably only about 150 people that ever saw it. So, which
is so funny, isn't it? Because like the ones we got were like Demolition, the brand, BMX brand, was one that came over from the States, and I had to forget how we even got hold of it. But it was probably I mean, we read the magazines, man. That's such a part of that's a pivotal part of like what's missing as well. It's like those magazines were such a portal to the culture. I was like, right, cool. I got a magazine, and it's like there's all the parts, there's all like the places to go, the skate comps or the BMX comps or whatever. But also then like, oh, here's the latest video that not necessarily the reviewing, but it was shouting it out, and it was like quite common for those brands to sort of shout their own videos out and stuff.
So are you familiar with High Mag?
Hmm.
Right, so it's in London, and it's the largest magazine archive in the world, I think. And it's basically the internet before the internet, because
Right.
they've got every single copy of pretty much most mags you could imagine, and that was what people had. You had, I went there, and it was a very small focus of popular culture, so everyone had a limited resource of what made the influence, I guess.
I think that's it as well, isn't it? Like, just how many of those kind of, I can't come on the skate ones. I would love to look into some of those now as sort of like back catalogs for sure, but certainly in terms of understanding that they were run by people that were involved with the sport. They weren't run by publishing companies that were looking to sort of, whatever, grab a bit of the culture and put it out there. They were like, right, there's the skateboarders or their BMXers or someone else that's actually putting this thing together. No, that's kind of my impression of it anyway, like the ones we were reading anyways. I guess it probably went that way eventually. Did you get any affectionate memories of skate mags and stuff like that, or was it all videos for you?
Well, that was what started Dirty Sanchez, because you would get your photo in a magazine, and then at a comp they might take another photo of you, and you'd get known through the magazines. And that's how I got to know Pritch, Dayton and Pancho, because they were featured in magazines before. And then I got had an article in there, like with an interview, and that they contacted me after that, actually.
Was there any of these guys actually like professional skaters? I use that in inverted commas.
Yeah, Pritch was a pro, Dayton was a pro, me and Panch weren't pros.
Yeah, I use it in inverted commas, so I understand there's very different ideas of what constitutes a professional. I mean, even then to now, it's so weird, isn't it? I remember being like involved in that kind of world early on and being like, oh, you're a professional, that's your job now. Like that's your deal. You're kind of set. Like as a kid, you looked up to it as like, oh yeah, if you're a pro anything, that's just who you are now. Like I was looking up to Dave Mirra and Matt Hoffman, these kind of guys. And obviously you'd have had your own heroes, I'm sure, with skateboarding, not the conventional ones, I'm sure.
Well, Pritch was one of the better known pros in the UK. There was Jeff Rowley and Tom Penny. They sort of went to America, but they were the biggest pros from the UK that went to America. But then Pritch was one of the biggest pros from the UK that stayed here.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Who else was your influences skating wise? I mean,
Tom Penny. He was the best skateboarder in the world.
No way.
Yeah.
Man, I got to do some research now.
Yeah, check him out. There's a Instagram page called Cult of Tom, and it's basically all of his best clips. And yeah, he was doing stuff back then that people still don't even do now.
No way. Oh man, what sort of style? I'm going to try and pretend to know what I'm talking about.
His style is effortless, and he just he'll float through the air, and he landed things like first go, and you would see him at a comp, and yeah, you wouldn't see him trying it over and over. He would just come out and just do something and land it first go, and everyone's like, what the fuck?
Mate, I'm gonna have to look it up. Oh, it's all right. We're classified as explicit in the podcast world now, so apparently we can swear. Too many of my previous guests were potty mouths, so now we've got a swear board as well.
No, I don't like the swearing ones, because I like to listen to my podcast in the car, and I've got a young daughter, and I have to turn them off now.
I shall make sure that we keep this nice.
Yeah.
And
you'll get a much more people listening.
That's good to know. This is the kind of feedback that we need for sure. So I appreciate it. How many of those? I say how many of those brands, but those brands that are now synonymous with skate culture. We look at Vans. You've been lucky enough to work with. Like, what's that experience like? Was that really cool for you to get that cool?
they're really good. They're probably one of the best clients I've got because they trust your judgment, and they know because if you're a skateboarder, you kind of know how skateboarders, there's so many unwritten rules that you can and can't do that only if you're a skateboarder you would know. So
come on, unwritten rules. Let's
like you can't hold the truck with your hand, like that's called maul grab. And then there's another one where you can't kick with your back foot on the board and push with your leading foot. You have to have your leading foot and then kick with your back foot. But there's little things like that. But they trust that I know what.
Oh, you're like sort of like sense checking stuff. So like,
yeah,
if
so
you're putting some, okay, gotcha.
They just let me do what I want, really. So that I had one brief, I had to do this video, and they didn't ask me to do anything. I just did the whole thing myself, and then just handed it in, and there weren't any changes or anything.
I'm not all that surprised, if I'm honest, because again, talking about your style earlier, I know it's a tough thing to talk about your own style, getting someone, like putting someone on the spot, being like, oh yeah, can you explain your style for me? It's bullshit. But sorry, I'm cursing funny kid there again. Sorry. But it's kind of ridiculous to try and pin it down. But the reality is you do have a very unique style, and it's, I'd struggle to find the right words to explain it, but incredibly unique, incredibly creative. And these people that can see the products that you've put together, I'm sure it's not complicated for them to go like, all right, cool, we just want a piece of Dan. Dan, can you just put your mind to this task, and here's a bit of a brief, whether it be, I don't know, a location or those sorts of things. I mean, you know more than me in that regard. Is it that sort of thing? They just sort of give you a person to go and hang out with, or they give you a location? Or
well, yeah, I mean, vans, they just trust what I do. So I did this one recently with Offspring. It was like a collab shoe they did.
As in the band?
No, as in the footwear retailers.
Oh no.
And
got my hopes up there. I know they're probably starting knocking around here. I'm showing my age again.
But they so it was a surfer, and it was one of their pro surfers that they sponsor. And they just gave me his details, and I just arranged the whole shoot. But I wanted to do it in Kent because that's where I live. But unfortunately, there's no surf in Kent. So I had to design this whole shoot of him looking for the surf. And obviously, he doesn't find any. So he goes skating and then finds a disused pool in someone's back garden, and then ends up skating that. Was the closing shot. But I just planned the whole shoot myself, and they didn't.
I love how simplified you've just made that for everyone. It's just like, there's just a bit of this, and then he just does this, and then that's it, really.
Yeah.
I can see how you get your work now, because like, if I was a producer, I'm like, all right, crack on.
Yeah.
Good man, good man. I'm glad to hear that those things are out there for you, man. That's the thing. It's good to hear those. Obviously, it's good to hear those clients are like hands off with people like yourself as well. They just let you get on with it. So many times you hear stories, I don't want to recount any of them now, but like where people just get a bit too hands-on, and it's like the reality is your style is the thing that you're bringing to the table, and if they micromanage you, they're going to lose that.
Yeah, to be honest with you, most of the people I work with, they just let me get on with it. I mean, there is occasions where you're 15 changes in and you still haven't come to the right edit that you want, but that doesn't really happen very often anymore.
Yeah, fair enough. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. And that also brings me on to you're saying that you're into skateboarding, involved with skateboarding, is kind of underselling it a bit, because you've also been active in the community of skateboarding as well. Obviously, one of those elements is the different locations you've got around the country, which is specifically South Bank in London. Been a pivotal skate spot even for many, many, many years. What's going on over there? What's happening?
So when I was at uni, I was at University of Westminster out in Harrow, and I got my grant back then, and I went and bought I forget what camera it was. It was a Canon Hi8 with the interchangeable lenses.
Right.
With the interchangeable lenses. I got it. And,
glorious picture quality from what I remember.
But I got one of those, and then I started filming skateboarding with it, and I would go down the South Bank, and I didn't bother going to any of the classes, and then I got to meet all the skateboarders, all the pros, the guys from the magazine, and then my camera got stolen, and then I didn't bother doing my second year, and I ended up getting a job in a skate shop after that. So it was, and then South Bank, they contacted me. So the Long Live South Bank, all the skateboarders created this group to try and save the space, because where the Undercroft, they were gonna sell it off to like Starbucks and stuff like that. And all the skaters were like, no, you can't. This is our space. We need to, got so much heritage. So they created this group called Long Live South Bank to try and save it. And then...
What kind of opposition are they hitting there? Is it just commercial and that sort of stuff? Or is it council or what? So as far as I know, South Bank's been relatively supported by the council, right?
It's weird because the South Bank Centre is public funded money from the Arts Council and various different charities. But they were trying to sell off that space for commercial gain so that they could expand their building. And then the skateboarders, my family have just returned.
That's all right. They can join the party.
So I forget where I was at now.
It's all right. We're doing Long Live South Bank. We're doing the commercial enterprise was trying to take over.
They were trying to sell it off. So all the skateboarders rallied themselves together, and they created this group, and they got a board, table outside the front of it, and got petitions, and they got the highest amount of oppositions to a planning permission ever. And then
like in the UK or in like what?
Ever, yeah. And they handed it in, and then they saved the space. And then they were like, right, we've saved it. Now we want the old bit back, because in 2005, I think, they boarded half of it up and got rid of it. So there was just a little bit at the front. And all the skaters were like, well, we want the old bit back. So they said, well, you can, but it's going to cost you, I think it was 2 million to do it. So the skaters went,
London real estate.
we'll raise the money ourselves.
No way.
So all the skaters started another campaign.
No way.
And they raised over 2 million. And then Sadiq Khan said, whatever money you raise, I'll double it. I'll match fund whatever you can.
You're kidding.
Yeah. So they got all the money.
That's amazing. And you've been supporting them with the video stuff as well, right?
So yeah, they wanted a film about this whole, what had happened. So I'd been following them on Twitter for a long time.
We'll see if we can get this. We'll see if we can get Jake to roll this film for us as well. In the meantime, hopefully, Dan and I can't see this, so hopefully you guys can see this at home. If not playing right now, play very shortly. This is the work that Dan's been doing.
He's up on screen right now, boys.
Perfect. Let's go on. So Dan, sorry to interrupt you there, Dan. Please continue to talk us through this.
Is it playing now? Is it?
Yeah, it's playing now.
All right, but no audio.
No audio. No.
No audio.
Okay. So yeah, they contacted me and were like, "Can you make a film about what we've been through?" So I worked with Sussex University, the Humanity Arts Research Council, and we just interviewed everyone to do with the story and how they managed to save the space.
Oh, brilliant. And has that been part of then the fundraising campaign, or is it just something to show what's been happening?
Yeah, that was after they'd won the campaign, and after it was actually made just before it was reopened.
Amazing. So celebration of the efforts.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's really cool. That's really good to hear. Like, and I'm downplaying South Bank when I'm talking about it. It really is. It's just such a hugely famous and pivotal spot for the skating community within the UK, and certainly famous beyond those borders as well. So that's really cool that you're involved in that.
But that was the first time that skateboarders really had to stand up for what they believed in. I mean, I'm not political at all, but as soon as I found out that South Bank was going to be sold off, I immediately got up and was like, no, this is really important. And everyone did. Like, I think Tony Hawk did as well, and Chad Musker, who's another famous skateboarder. So many people got behind it. and the South Bank Centre didn't realise they thought skateboarding was a fad, and the people that did it just did it and then quit. They didn't realise they were skateboarders forever, and their children would skateboard. They didn't realise the creative industries that they were all involved with through skateboarding,
of course,
and this whole interlinked, and the arts, and
it spans through other cultures as well, doesn't it? Like if you look at fashion, if you look at all these types of things, so many things have been inspired by that skate culture, right?
Yeah, they had no idea, and that was that they apologized for. Really, they said, sorry, we didn't realize that, this was what
they're a bit short-sighted
for that. Yeah, so that came across in the film. The Mike, I forget his name now, he was like the MD of the South Bank Centre. He apologized, and it was in the film.
I bet he was blown away. I say he made the cut too.
He was in there, yeah.
Oh, good man. Well,
and I managed to get Dennis Crompton, who was the architect who designed it, the only one still alive.
No way.
Effects, yeah.
Oh, right, that's brilliant. Where can the audience check that out as well?
Say that again?
Where can the audience check this out?
That's on my Vimeo.
Check out Joyce Division Vimeo, yeah?
Yeah.
And you can have a look at that in all its glory and listen to it, pay attention to it, not just wantonly playing it over our podcast right now. Some visual cue. So you were going to say something about the architect?
Yeah, so that was what he said. He said when they designed it, they wanted the building to be interpreted as anyone wanted, and they didn't want it just to be like one thing.
One purpose, one thing. Oh, that's amazing. I mean, you mentioned there as well, like the lifetime skater thing is quite interesting to me, because that's kind of what I've been discovering about it in many regards. But from your perspective, it was really, really pleasant to see that you're encouraging your young daughter to skateboard as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, female skateboarding is definitely, like when I grew up, it was very much a young male thing. But now it's not. There's a lot more females starting, and young girls. I mean, there's a thing in Afghanistan called Skateistan.
Mm-hmm. I'm familiar, actually.
Yeah,
it's an incredible
so
thing.
They went into one of the war zones in Afghanistan, and there was nothing for women to do. So I think skateboarding, they didn't see it as it was more like a hobby, not like a sanctioned sport. So all these women just started doing it, and it's become this cultural thing for women in Afghanistan. And
I've seen some of the shots; they're pretty incredible. Like skating and then like mountains. It's just like what? Like just some flat concrete area, bits and pieces going on, and then like, oh, there's just a mountain behind there and a bunch of skaters. No, it's really amazing to see that those things are. Yeah, it's just. That's why I wanted to talk about skateboarding today, because it's just one of those things that just finds its way into different pockets of cultures. But ultimately, it's kind of all been, brought together by different means of being able to kind of film it. That's what's kind of spread it out, like different, whether it be documentary or whether it be like clips that people are throwing together on their own YouTube channels or whatever it might be. There's kind of like this far spread kind of awareness of it as a thing for one. But no, it's cool. And like you got your daughter a little skateboard kit, right? My imagination.
Yeah. She skates. Blast Skates Junior. So that's another company I do a bit of work with. Mm-hmm. Blast Skates. They're kind of like a grassroots skate company from London, based around Stockwell Skate Park.
Have they just started then, or they've been just a small?
For probably about 5 or 6 years now.
Okay.
But it's very low key and it's kind of organic, and they sell out straight away as soon as the boards come out. He doesn't do a lot of big volumes. Mm-hmm. But when he did these ones called Blast Skates Junior, so he wanted to make my first skateboard, and he wanted it to feel like something you treasured, and it all come in one box, and you write your name on it, says this belongs to, And it's my first skateboard basically.
That's really cool. Again, check out Dan's Instagram for that. I'm not doing it much justice myself, but to see it, it's really nice. It's a nice, well presented thing. It's got the wheels, the trucks, and it's like build it yourself and have some ownership. I took great pleasure in building my own skateboard, so I know there's a weird tangible feeling attached to sort of like creating that one bit of thing. But no, it's really cool to see that they've got that different application. They love the design as well on those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Was it those guys that had the design workshop, or was that someone else?
Yeah, so that was something I did with them as well. It was design your own skateboard. So it was part of Brixton Design Festival or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they took over this space and it was design your own skateboard. So all these young people came in and they got a board and they designed their own graphics. And I took Margot along and designed her own board. And her board I made for her was based on the first skateboard I ever had.
Amazing.
So I just
that's so cool.
Copied the graphics of that.
That's so nice that you got to do that though. I'm just, of course, I'm enamored with it because I'm just like finding out all these wonderful things about skateboarding as well. So you have to forgive me for being really enthusiastic about it. But I mean, it's so interesting as well. Like you relocated for it as well. Like there's this whole new skate park development we talked about briefly before. Like, what's the deal with all that?
I moved down to Folkestone, and so Folkestone traditionally has been after the Channel Tunnel was built, it was a port. Had a hovercraft port here, and then when the Channel Tunnel got built, that all went into disrepair. So the whole town just went to shit basically. And
you're cursing now, not me.
Well,
you're cursing now.
They're trying to regenerate the town through skateboarding and art. So they've built a
Is that council promoted or?
It's the Roger De Haan Trust. So the person who used to own Saga Holidays, he sold it for something billion, and he had all this money and he was like, I want to sort my town out where I come from.
No way.
And make it better. So their idea was to build a skate park in the middle of the town, and they wanted it to look like a church and for it to be something that you aspire to and want to become a skateboarder, and put it right in the center of town. So it's 3 levels. On the ground floor, they've built these bowls. The next one up is going to be a street course, and the next one up is going to be like a wooden flow thing that goes all up.
Yeah, I've checked out the website, and the graphics and design and the renders look incredible. It looks like something like, oh yeah, someone probably came up with that great idea, and maybe one day it will happen in someone's imagination. It just seemed like one of those crazy ideas that would never happen, but it's like
I'm time-lapsing it at the moment, actually.
You're kidding?
No.
So what, is there a site for it that people can check out?
Yeah, Folkestone F51, the skate park's called.
Yeah, I implore people to check it out because it's something to behold. Obviously plans are delayed with the current situation, but when are they guys looking to open it?
It was meant to be this July, but building stopped. But
of course.
I went down there yesterday and they've started putting the cladding up. So I'm using these Brino cameras for doing time lapse of building sites.
This is another thing that you just always bring to the party. We haven't even started talking about cameras yet properly. I just know that you just always going to come out with these little I've just got this magic gift that just does everything I need it to do, and I've never heard of it.
Yeah, they run off AA batteries, and the batteries last for 8 weeks.
What?
Yeah, so you can do time lapse for 8 weeks, and then before you have to change the batteries.
I mean, that can't be. There must be some. I'm talking quality now. Like, what sort of resolution?
It's there's 720. No, I think it's 1080 actually. The new one. It's not amazing, but it's good for like an Instagram clip.
Yeah, and to be fair, something that you can leave there, especially with a project of that magnitude, it's just going to keep going. I think I might have attempted a time lapse of some sort of building being put up 10 years ago, and just was very quickly disillusioned with the process. It was like, oh, this is what's involved with this then, is it? I should have quoted more. Such a funny thing. But you're going to do some stuff with those guys as well. Are you going to run a store out of there, or is it just in the town that you're going to run a store?
So yeah, I'm opening a skate shop opposite the skate park. And I'm going to be running workshops for filmmaking, photography. I'm going to setting a dark room up.
How are you going to do that? I mean, I'm asked because I've thought about it. I'm not looking for your trade secrets. I'm just kind of intrigued. I love the idea of setting a dark room up and kind of like all comers, like come and hang out in the dark room. But like, I kind of am terrified of the idea of just, I don't know, it's a dark room, you know, chemicals.
It's very simple. It's very simple. I've been shooting film for maybe 2 years and developing my own photographs for the last year.
Color or just black and white?
Just black and white so far, yeah. I've got everything to do color, and I will probably do that at a later date, but I'm just going to do black and white at first because I want it just to be quite simple. So have a group of skaters come down, give them a camera and a roll of film, go in the skate park, set the flashes up for them, take the skate photo.
Helps if you've got a location, right?
Well, I've got 3-floor skate park. And then come back and then develop the photos. And I'm going to do safe set because there's going to be kids coming down through the summer or whatever. So I'll do like a course, but maybe one day they'll do photography, another one do filmmaking, another one do podcasts, something like that. So I'm going to get a podcast studio in there as well.
All right, mate. We're going to have to come and check it out. We might have to host one of our episodes down there.
Yeah, definitely.
I bet you're going to have to keep us up to date with the opening. I'm super excited about it for obvious reasons, but
we're going to be doing live streams as well. So I wanted to do a 360 live stream, but I'm not sure what's out there yet. So
and you haven't figured out yet? That does surprise me.
I have been
how much tech information you have.
I've been doing stuff with the Insta360 One X, but I've also done the Insta360 Pro, which is stereoscopic, but it's a bit of a minefield, that.
Yeah, we've tried a few different situations. When we've been to Goodwood for the past 3 or 4 years, and we've done filming with the Ford team, the Drift team, Von Gittin Jr. We've had different ones because they want to do like a 360 that you can obviously then do the trip up the Goodwood Hill. You can do the full race and stuff like that. And we've tried different scenarios. We've never found the perfect solution. We ran the first iteration, which was the GoPro like cube thing, which was just it's just so cumbersome. And then you've got to make sure
the workflow is a nightmare.
The workflow is such a pain. But then it was like, right. Honestly, at that point in time, I was like, if someone's in charge of this, and it's their thing. It's nothing to do with me. We get specialists for this, as we should have done anyway.
The Z-Cam, I've used that as well. That was quite good. I did something for Lad Bible. It was for the release of Baby Driver film.
Okay, I saw a glimpse of this, but I didn't see what it was. I'm going to have to check it out myself.
So yeah, it was for Lad Bible. Did a 360 film with a Subaru going around like a Ken Block style course. It was good, but yeah, Z-Cam I used in the end. It was good.
Yeah, I think one we used was a Nikon one. What else did we use? I forget now. I think funny enough, the Nikon one, I only had camera on both sides, but it was the easiest in terms of workflow. I think you just had to like import it and send it to YouTube, and it kind of figured itself out. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know if I'm sold on 360 tech at the moment.
Well, I think with what's happened with the Corona and all this lockdown, I think there's definitely going to be a push on it, because you're going to be able to create these new worlds with the headset, and you'll be able to create your own virtual nightclub or your own virtual shop and go in and experience it.
I'm still not sure, man. I understand the theory and I get what you're saying, but I'm just not sure.
Well, because no one's got the headset yet. But the new Xbox is coming out.
The PlayStation had the VR headset, right?
But it's the latency doesn't work. The new ones, they will have got it sorted out. So,
because I know that a lot of like
push at Christmas, and I reckon that's where we're heading.
Interesting. Well, we'll see if you've got the foresight to back that up. No, I think I have my own reservations. Like, I love the idea when I've been on like driving simulators and things, and friends have got these crazy setups with the full rig and everything. And I've been amazed by it because it brings a new dimension to it. In like, I have a weird thing where I can't quite connect with the controller and the screen. And it's like, I want to drive with my butt, I want to feel what's going on. I can't necessarily see and feel what's going on at the same time. And it's like that step with the VR was one step closer to it, because obviously you're physically moving your head to look around the space and sort of having a different kind of spatial awareness, I guess.
I've not been on it yet, but I'd like to.
You're not?
No.
We'll have to check it out. I think there's some people we know with them. For sure there is.
James Dean's got quite a good setup in his house, isn't he?
I believe he has, yeah. Those guys have been doing quite a lot with with what's been going on with the absence of the drifting series. You follow the drifting anymore?
No.
No.
I do follow Juicebox. I quite like their content.
Oh, those are the Irish guys,
The Irish boys, yeah, building their car. And I follow Stav Tech. I quite like his videos.
I remember him from the Driftworks forum and stuff like that. But I don't remember much.
Funny.
I don't remember much about the drifting side of what he had. He had some cool RX-7. It was an FC, I think.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool guy. That's a weird memory.
Yeah, he's got a good YouTube channel. He what was it? He said his last video. He said you're picking the bottom fruit, so it's the stuff that's at the bottom and it's cheap and easy. So it's things that don't cost anything, but great performance gains, like
I gotcha.
Porting and polishing and stuff like that.
Interesting. Are you still into cars at all? Are you still doing this stuff?
Not really. No, I drive a Toyota Corolla these days.
And your wife drives a?
No, she drives the same car as I do.
Oh, I was referring to the other Lad Bible comment that we.
Oh right, yeah. Yeah, I made another video for Lad Bible. That was I had a Honda Odyssey and I pimped it up while she was. I pretended I was going to get the MOT done. We took it to a garage, Attitude Autos out in Bicester, and he modified it, lowered it, put nitrous oxide in it.
It's one of those frustrating things that I'm sure people watching him going like, yeah, sure, I didn't do that for real, or it's set up. But I know you, and I know you'd have done it. You'd have just been like, wife, disappear for a few hours while you're at work or something, and you'd have just gone and just taken the car and just been like, there you go, this is our vehicle now. This is the car we own.
Yeah, it was the advertising campaign for what's it called? What's the new Top Gear show but on Amazon?
Grand Tour.
Grand Tour. It was their advertising campaign.
It's quite. How long did you keep it like that?
My mate still got it. I sold it to a mate of mine. He still drives it.
Is your face still on the front of it?
No, we took all those vinyls off. But
what bits did you keep? The exhaust?
Kept the coilovers, exhaust, base cannon, strobes, undercar neons. The nitrous oxide was in there.
Well, Dan, I did say around the hour mark, we're just over that. We're going to ask some questions from the audience, but either I can't see them or they're not coming through. So if you guys have questions, then send them through. But otherwise, I'm just going to throw some pop quiz style questions at Dan, because that's just a feature that we're running with on the show at the moment. And it's working out pretty well because it always inspires a little story or two. And we've got some tailored to Dan this week. So Dan, would you mind answering a few questions from a pop quiz?
Yeah, no worries.
Amazing. Appreciate that. Right. This one was actually, I'm trying different questions on the show with different episodes to kind of see how they play out. So just don't overthink it. I feel like I know the answer to this anyway. Have you ever lied on your CV to get a job?
I don't have a CV.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. My follow-up was, doesn't have a CV, doesn't need one.
No.
See, exactly. See, this works with other people, doesn't work with you. Much better question coming up. What's the most amazing thing you've ever seen? Take a minute if you need to.
The most amazing thing I've seen.
Ever.
My daughter being born.
Ah, look at that. Look at that. What a wonderful response. I love that you thought about that too as well. It's like, right, here's the stuff I've got to think about. Tick, tick, tick.
No, that was the most.
Getting married.
The one thing.
Daughter born. Yes.
No, that was the one thing when you see your baby there and you go, I'm now responsible for that child, and you don't know what you've totally, and it's like the most amount of love you've ever felt in one, and it's like, wow.
I can see it on your face.
Yeah.
It's very nice to see that. It's very nice to hear that. I feel like I want to follow up on that, but I've actually got a follow up to come back to you after. We'll carry on. What's the best thing you've ever done? I mean, that could be making a child, but it could be anything. Could be anything. Could be an experience. Could be a thing.
Doing the Gumball Rally and that year doing.
No way.
Driving. That was like it was definitely one of those like moments of like, oh, this is like a once in a lifetime trip.
That is
but
interesting. I didn't get back onto my gumball story, to be fair.
But yeah, it was a very hedonistic time, and it was the height of our fame as well, and it was driving really fast. And
because it was expensive, right? It wasn't like it was a thing that people just decided to rock up and do, right?
No.
We won't get into who paid what for what.
40 grand or something, I think, to do it.
But the craziest experience, they literally flew the cars around on Antonov aircraft.
Yeah, and I went on the Antonov and flew on there.
Now I remember. Okay, so there was a movie, right? And someone messed with someone's car?
I weed on Bam's car, and someone did a donut in it and broke his clutch.
In his Lamborghini.
That wasn't me, though. No. That was one of the gumball staff.
And then he went and got his own back.
Yeah.
And trashed his car at his house. He went to his house with paint cans. Why do I remember this? This is so weird. But it just goes to show like how many things that you were kind of involved in that I was like just witnessing at that time. I know how old I was because I went and I think I asked Gumball for a job. I think it was like one of my first like actual job work experiences. No kidding. I was like 17 years old and I just hit them up and was just like, yo, I want to work for you guys. And I got this opportunity to go and work for them down at MPH show. I think it was so hilarious that like you were doing that whilst I was like looking at it basically. But they were super kind to me and I completely threw that opportunity away. I feel like this is a bit of a confession. I totally got offered an internship and just didn't show up. Like totally had the opportunity and I didn't know what to do with it. I was just like, so Max, sorry. Sorry, mate. One day I'll get an opportunity to buy you a drink and hopefully you can forgive me. Moving on. Right. We've done what's the best thing you've ever done? And I'm asking this cautiously. What's the worst thing you've ever done?
Well, I get asked this question a lot. And the worst thing I ever had to do was drink my friend's fat, liposuction.
As tamer than I thought, but you know what? Well, I think we'll just stop it there because I don't think we need to know much more about that experience. That's rough.
Disgusting. Yeah, no, definitely wouldn't do it again.
There you go. It's cool. It wasn't a follow-up. I wouldn't do, would you do it again? But I'm glad that you've specified. That's not something that we're condoning. Don't do it. Have you ever thought about that, guys? You have it from someone that's done it? No, just don't do it. Right.
I'll tell you what happens. When you do it, you know that it's wrong. And there's something in the back of your mind that tells you shouldn't do it.
Like a bit of like primordial.
Yeah, you know it's wrong.
No. Oh, God. We'll move on from that one. I'm glad I asked it, but I'm also not glad at the same time. I'm a bit ashamed of myself for making it lowbrow. Here's a fun one. Have you ever knocked yourself out?
Many a time.
Really?
Last one I did was I cut my eye open on a snowboard. Went snowboarding and I was a bit drunk and it was in the evening and they had a kicker outside the front of the lodge.
Uh-huh.
And a rail, and I was doing lip slides on this rail, and I got really cocky, and I just was like, "Oh, yeah, I can do this." And then my nose went underneath the rail like that, and I just went bang like that, landed on the rail, out cold.
Out cold? How long?
Yeah. It probably wasn't long, but I was concussed.
Oh man, I've been looking into this recently. You know, we've been doing some research on documentaries that we might be looking at in the near future, and one of the things is like. That's prominent. I don't know if you saw it recently, but Travis Pastrana was just talking about very specifically head injuries and things. So they went and did a study. Oh man, I wish I could remember. But the videos on, I think it's on Nitro Circus's YouTube channel.
I filmed some of that actually.
You're joking me?
Yeah, I was in Vegas when he was doing one of his shows, and I'm in one of the shows, and I film it on my phone. And it's where he jumps off.
Base jumped off of the thing,
jumps off the thing, and the camera turns to me, and I say something. I forget what it was now. It's on my YouTube channel.
Oh man, I forgot about that. It's so weird. These little random memories are coming back when we start having these conversations. But we didn't. We've been looking into this stuff, and obviously Travis Pastrana, another guy. Blam. I feel bad. I forget his name. But they had a mad crash. They tried to jump. It was like a little desert buggy thing. I forget what the brand was. I think it was a Razor or something like that. And they jumped it. They did the record. And then obviously had a huge crash, did a bunch of rolls. And this guy was in a bad way. I was really happy to see that he was like not you know, he was actually okay at the end of it, but he was not the same afterwards.
No.
You know, and it was obviously very sad to see, but he's all there. He's just not the same, you know, character's slightly off and all this sort of stuff.
But none of those guys are all there though. Like they've had head injuries for their whole life, and they're all nuts.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of fascination for me. I'm not sure where it's going yet. I'm not sure I've like pulled the thread quite enough yet to sort of discover where it is. But there's a fascination for me with that, and also the concussion thing. You know, this movie with Will Smith about the NFL and CTE.
Yeah.
But mainly because, well, I think there was a couple of things that brought it to my attention. One of which was Dave Mirra, because I was very lucky to interview him and film him just prior to him passing away. And it just was very much in my face after that point. I was like, hold on a minute, I seen this guy like 2 months ago, and now he's not here anymore. But what's going on? And obviously then posthumous diagnosis of CTE, and I'm like, whoa. And then like this whole world just starts opening up to you.
Well, did you see what happened yesterday? Well, today, I think. Sky Brown, do you know her? She's the Skateboard England. She's a young girl. She's going to be our Olympic hopeful. She's 11 years old, and she's been training at Tony Hawk's ramp. He's got these two big vert ramps, and there's a massive gap in between. And a few days ago, she cleared the gap, but you can tell she's nervous about doing it. And then she's doing it again, and then she just misses the top of the ramp.
Oh man!
And flies through the gap.
Oh man!
To the floor, but there's no pad in there, and he's got pads there, and it's like, should they have even been doing this during this lockdown anyway?
Yeah.
And there should have been pads there. And should you be pushing young 11-year-olds to get this much fame? And like,
yeah, that's not cool.
And I don't think it's right.
Yeah, mate, I'm in two minds, if I'm honest with you. But like, none of them are supporting that. Like, both of them, my mindset is like, kids kind of need to be kids and do their own thing, and, you know, fall and learn how to do that bit. You'll have much more insight on that. I'm just talking from a bystander's perspective. But like, you know, I see my friends who've got kids, and they let them kind of just like, oh, he fell over or she fell over, and then gets up and they like kind of shake it off. They're looking for the cry. No, I'm good. I'm actually okay. They're kind of assessing the situation themselves. But as you said, rightly so, in that situation, it's different. That person's being like, oh, there's this Olympic hopeful. If you're encouraged to go higher and further and faster, or whatever, that's a different story altogether.
Well, she has this whole prepared speech coming from a hospital bed, and it's like,
is she okay? At least
you could tell that she's not all right, but she's put on this brave face and she's reading from a script. But the whole thing doesn't sit very well with me. But
that's fair enough. Doesn't sit well with me either.
Yeah. But check it out. Sky Brown, her name, isn't it? It's on her YouTube channel.
Which are the best, at the very least. Oh, well, that's a bit of a sad moment. I feel somewhat affected by that. I need to check it out. But no, seriously, all the best with those situations. There's kind of those conversations within the whole extreme sports world. But like I said, I'm not sure what that thread is being pulled on yet. But that, to be fair, there might be one of them. Like how, you know, look at the athletes of, you know, the Tony Hawk generation. They were kids when they were like put into their I don't know what the first iteration was. It was with Stacey Brown. Do you know this?
Bones Brigade.
Yeah, Bones Brigade.
Yeah.
You seen that documentary?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, right?
I
really liked Riding Giants, really liked Dogtown, and then I watched that and I was like, these people kind of seem a bit off now. You get the same vibe? No?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought there was too much Rodney Mullen in that documentary. And
they never addressed the fact that he's clearly got Asperger's, right?
Yeah. He's like a genius, but
they don't reference it. They don't talk about it.
No.
So it's just kind of uncomfortable viewing, and it's like, okay, I can tell that something's not right here, but in the same way that's like, it just feels a bit what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not sure. Just doesn't feel good watching.
And they shot them all from the same location, which is a bit of a pet hate of mine.
Yeah, it's just unsettling. You're like, I kind of feel bad watching this.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, cool. It's very obvious then once a simple Google. It's like, oh, cool. It's like, it's not like they've put someone who's like had some kind of trauma in their life in a situation where they're being forced to talk about it. That's what it feels like to start with, the way it's put forward. Just very strange. But
I think that was the first time that they'd all talked about it since they'd all gone their separate ways.
Which kind of makes sense. The way that like a couple of them, Lance for one, sounds like he's talking about it from a not chip on his shoulder. But there's moments where he kind of talks about the other guys like they had stuff going on that he didn't. It was like,
yeah, but that is pretty much what happened. He got pretty much screwed over by all the companies, and he was the one that didn't have his own skateboard company. We did, but it failed. And he always felt like he was like he wasn't the best, but he was the funniest. And
he was
kind of why he was a pro, because he was funny.
Yeah.
He felt like he was like the one that did the worst out of it. So Nike ended up giving him making him a pro. So which was quite tactical of Nike, really, because as soon as Lance Mountain was a pro for Nike, then it made Nike a legit skate company.
Huh. Interesting. My brain's just going off in many directions now. Right. Well, as I said, I'll get back to you on what my thoughts do on that documentary and where they go. But certainly there's an interest and fascination with those people. That's always been there since I was a kid. I was watching X Games and all that fun stuff. I've always kind of been a bit enamored with it. So anyway, back to our little quiz that we've deviated somewhat from anyway. one for the CVP fans. At the end of the day, we're on CVP's channel. They're kind enough to host us. Let's get into some camera stuff. What camera do you use at the moment? I realised that you definitely have more than one. So
I use all sorts. So I never really use one camera. I just use lots of different stuff. So I've been doing a load of stuff for Sports Banger. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm not.
He's a fashion and he's a raver and does collaborations with
a raver.
He's
to me, that's something that like used to exist.
Yeah, no, he's that's how he described himself. He said, "I'm a raver," and
right, self-confessed.
But he's become quite political, so he does a lot of stuff with. Well, he did these NHS T-shirts with a Nike tick underneath it, and he's been selling them, and I think he's raised over 150 grand.
What?
And and he goes and he supplies.
You got to give me more information here. I don't know. I got to have more context here. What's happening with these T-shirts?
He
what's the premise behind his T-shirts? Nike tick with a NHS thing on it. What's that about?
Yeah, so he just started making them. They were for the doctors years ago, and he started making them, and then he donated the money to the NHS. And since this COVID thing's been going on, he re-released them, and he.
Oh, so he did this before now?
He did it about 4 years ago.
Oh, no way!
And then he started bringing these out for COVID. And he raised over 150 grand in selling these T-shirts, and then he gives the money to all the people that work in the NHS around London, and he makes them all juices and gets these local companies to make the juices and goes and gives them to all the people working there.
That sounds cool, man.
Yeah, you should check it out. So I've been working with him, and he said that was another person who just let me get on with whatever I wanted to do. So I filmed his fashion shows with a 360 camera on a cable cam, but then I cut it in with DV footage and FS.
DV footage?
Yeah, and
FS. Are we back in time now, or are we current day?
No, but I lay them over the top of each other.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I need to explore this process, but it might be quite tricky without literally showing me.
Well, I wanted the DV glitches. You know, when you go and import a tape and it's a really crap tape, and
I'm very aware of this. It's been rewound 2 times. That.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to add that in it because, I don't know.
There's a guy I just seen doing this actually. You know what happened? It kind of caught my attention because someone was doing a spec commercial, and I have different feelings about these things anyway. We'll get into that another time. It's not that important. But what he'd done is he'd done some really cool stuff. I want to say it was a signal bender. Are you familiar with this?
I've got one of those.
Yeah, signal bender. And he was doing all sorts of wacky stuff with like analog signals. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And like making some kind of like what you're explaining, this like glitchy effect.
Video synth.
Okay. But it's like I'm again, to go on about it, but these practical effects that I'm seeing people getting back to is really amazing. It's like, oh, cool. People are going like full circle. We've gone high resolution, dynamic range, and then kind of getting back to like, oh, let's go and find some creative ways of utilizing.
It's all because of Instagram, because of that. We're back to a square now, so like, it makes perfect sense to start using DV again because it fits the square way better. Of course.
The 4:3, yeah. You thought about using film yet?
I use film a lot, yeah.
In movie terms, obviously.
Yeah, no, I do.
What are you rocking?
I've got all sorts. I've got a Bolex. I've got a Bolex 8mm, Bolex 16mm.
16, Super 16, or
it's I forget which one it is. I've got. It's one of the really old ones, but it's got twin teeth on it. I'm
not up on them. I'm looking to educate myself here because
I need to get it converted to single perforation.
Okay. Is that what film you're getting?
Because all the new films just got one perforation.
Gotcha.
The old ones had twin. So the teeth, I need to get them ground off.
Yeah, of course. Otherwise, So have you not shot with that one yet? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay.
I've got the film in my fridge, and then I bought the film, and then I bought the camera, and then I realised that they don't work together.
Did you play it safe? Did you go for some stock that you were familiar with? I'm learning.
Tri-X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are looking for a particular look with that stuff, or
black and white?
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
The reason why I ask is because like there's been this kind of interesting change in the landscape of like obviously a lot more people are using film within the means that we're looking at, like a lot of commercial projects, music videos, these sorts of things, these short form projects. They can go like, oh, actually, we've got this much money, we're going to go and rent this camera and lenses anyway, and there is a way of actually being almost, I would say cost effective. You've always got to explain yourself to someone at some point down the line when it comes to spending money on films. But at the same time, the 16mm look, something I'm particularly interested in. When you get to 35, it's still, in my mind, it's like, okay, well, with digital and the highest resolution and the best camera, you can still emulate that anyway. So it's like, there's a character you definitely can't get from 16 and 8mm. But it's like, yeah, of course you can get pretty good emulation, but for doing it for real, there's no compromise, right?
No, and I bought that camera to do it with more, but whenever I've got something, I will always try and get film in there. But like you said, it's explaining it to whoever is paying the.
Why do we need 400 feet of film, Dan?
Yeah. But
I'll decorate my house with it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so if I'm ever doing a personal project, I will always use it, and I shoot it on the side of whatever I'm doing as well. So I try and. So say I'm doing
so you can cut between the shots, right? So you got two same angles, similar.
I always try and even just taking photographs on set now. So whatever job I'll do, I'll always document it all on a film camera. So then I've got this personal record. It's like you said about doing your CV. That kind of is a CV then of everything you've been doing on. I tell you what it was. It's when I had my daughter, I suddenly thought, oh, when have I looked at my old hard drives from 10 years ago? So I got an old hard drive from 10 years ago and I plugged it in and it didn't boot up. And I was like,
oh no.
I was like, I need to be taking photos of my daughter on film so that she has a negative and she can see the photograph. And that's
there's a lesson here for backup though, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, but it's like, is she going to look through some of these old hard drives? I don't think she is, but she would definitely look in a book and see the photographs.
I completely get it. Completely get it. Having tried to do, I've been rocking the 35mm stills for a little while now, and just having them physically is so nice. I got like packets of, like old school packets of photos that I'm just grabbing off the shelf. I'm like, cool, that was that thing. And it's just there in front of you. And you kind of just do find yourself with a moment of a day where you just go, oh, that's that thing. And, they might not be the best shots in the world, but sometimes you might get a few little nuggets. And it's just a memory, isn't it? It's just like, oh, that's that tangible thing that I did.
Yeah.
But it makes perfect sense if you've got a kid. You still want to start remembering stuff, right?
Yeah.
Different thing entirely, but to be able to, obviously something I haven't thought about is actually being able to leave something behind to your kid and go like, oh, cool, this is what you look like when you were a kid. with your first skateboard and doing that stuff. But what a cool thing to have on film.
I dare you to boot up an old hard drive from 10 years ago.
Mate.
See if there's anything still on there.
There's probably a few in here. The thing that scares me the most is the old ones, the really old ones. I don't know which power supplies go for them. I've done this before.
That was the problem I had. Yeah.
You put the wrong power supply into that hard drive, and it's just. I've done that before. A long time ago. I'll never do it again. But I've done that, and you just go, how much data have I lost, and how much trouble am I in?
I just leave them plugged in now, and and then just wrap it round.
I'm much more responsible these days.
Yeah.
Multiple backups. If anyone's asking me for sending anything anywhere, I'm like, cool, let's copy that 4-5 times maybe, and then it's somewhere else locked in a safe. I don't know. I believe I think it's magnetic tape is the safest way. I've been told, maybe.
Well, that was also why I started shooting stuff on DV. So I realised I had all my old tapes from when we were doing those videos together.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, well, I should probably start filming like her birthday on DV so that she will have a physical tape. And, you know, the tapes that I've got from 10, 15 years ago, they all still work fine.
That's so cool.
So, yeah.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about is, because you've got a daughter now and you did all this, you know, you come through the ranks of filmmaking and these things. I actually I never knew where you came from with filming. So it's been a bit of an education in that regard for me. But I feel like a topic I want to talk to kind of everyone that's in a creative field right now is how they feel about the state of like learning, education. How do you feel about your experience and how like that actually set you up for the path that you went on? Like, is film school the answer? Is that, you know, just kind of want to get a bit of everyone's perspective on it, really.
I don't think so. I mean, telling a story now, everyone knows how to do it because everyone has this story that they're doing in their pocket, their Instagram, their feed. It's everyone's doing it, and everyone.
I think I need to follow the people you follow because, like, the people I'm following, they don't have to tell a story at all.
But you know, it's ingrained in. And kids are definitely being brought up with it now. Like, you know, Margot, she's like, we're going live or whatever. It's like, she'll know.
That's so funny.
She's aware of the camera and when things are being documented.
It's funny you mentioned that. Danny Winship, who was on the episode before you, on episode 5, I met him through the skate park and stuff, and he's just a real cool guy. He's a prop storeman, and he's been worked on some crazy, amazing films. Like, but he sent me this clip where his 5-year-old, he'd fallen off his BMX. Danny had fallen off his BMX, and his 5-year-old had picked up his phone and just started documenting the process. It was just like, oh, Dad's fallen off the bike. You're gonna have to check it out. It's on his Instagram.
Yeah,
it's a few posts in, but I just found that hilarious. Like, I don't know what our relationship was as kids around cameras, but I kind of like, it was very much TV and like famous people, and that was like the thing that, you know, associated with cameras and things, and like very much like, oh, if someone even had a camera, it was kind of a big deal. Like, why would you be filming stuff?
Yeah,
it's just interesting.
We went on a holiday at Christmas. We went to Bali, and we had an old phone, and we gave it to Margot just to use to watch downloaded stuff on when we were on the plane. But she just started using the camera and the video on it more than anything, and she started talking to it, and then she was essentially vlogging. I'm
not sure this is good or bad, but
yeah, she was vlogging to her mate who was back home, and she was making her these little videos and telling her what she was doing on her holiday. So then we just sent them to her mum, and then
the innocence of this kills me. But at the same time, it's kind of scary too. It's like, what does that generation grow up to be like? Jeez, but buddy, I mean, I guess that education conversation comes back into my mind just because of a number of reasons. Like, I had a very unconventional way. I tried to go a conventional way. I tried to go to college and listen and learn, and it just didn't really work out that way. It was like, I was more interested in girls and beer and like not going to college than listening to, you know, the guys that I feel bad, honestly, if I'm honest, for not listening to those guys. Go on, grab your cup of tea. I feel bad for not listening to those guys because, like, I, you know, shout out to him right now. Sean Doyle was my tutor, and he was in love with film, but he wasn't in love with us.
Yeah,
you know, he loved the subject of film, and was so happy to have a conversation with you about what it was that really inspired him. But for some reason, I was just at that one age, it just nothing got through. Until a certain point in time where I saw something that inspired me, which was oddly enough drifting. And it was Stefan Bernini, Clash Production, that put Silverstone film out with the Kawabata.
Yeah.
It wasn't Kawabata, was it? Sorry. It was Team Orange guys. Kuma Kubo. Yeah. Put that video out. And I was like, what the hell? And he's got this 35mm adapter. And that was the thing that inspired me to go and learn how to do that. I was like, how do I do that? And I'll just kind of pull that thread and figure
the Letus one.
Yeah, the Letus one.
I've been watching a few of those on eBay recently. They're not cheap enough.
Come on.
Yeah, but I fancy one for TV.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, they're about 200 quid.
Oh, mate, come on. Bite the bullet.
But I don't want to be paying 200 quid for a DV adapter. I want sub 100.
They were expensive at the time, though, right?
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I never bought one back in the day.
I think they were over 1,000 because it was above my league, and I was like, crap, how am I going to figure that out? Like when I was working, I was getting I was getting cameras hired from me. I was very, very lucky that I was trusted with a camera after not doing a great deal in college, and I got a few opportunities handed to me, and I was happy to not squander them. And I was happy to find some creativity and like, oh, here's an opportunity. Let's run with this for a bit. And I was very lucky that things started to work out for me after I started paying attention and working hard. Shock. But no, those Letus adapters, jeez. I mean, you guys does that have a lens mount on it? What's the deal? Like, does it?
The ones, yeah, I was after a Canon one, but there's Nikon ones on there as well.
I need to find out what and how far this goes. I need to track that down just out of pure idle curiosity, like to see if it actually can produce an image which is even, I don't know, anywhere near what my imagination remembers. Oh, jeez. Well, Dan, I think we'll come to a nice natural conclusion there. Unless there's anything else you want to ask me. There's no pressure to do that at all. You've been an excellent guest today, and I thank you very much for indulging me in your secret fear of being locked in a room with birds.
In fact, I had a seagull nick a pasty off me the other day. I was down in Hastings, and I was walking along like that. I had this pasty. It was the first one I'd had since lockdown. I was really excited, and I went to take a bite out of it, and this seagull come down and he nicked it out of my hand, and I thought it was a bloke nicking it, and I almost squared up to him like, oh. And he went out and he just swallowed it all in one go. But it was really.
How big is a seagull? Was it an albatross?
Massive, yeah. But it was really hot, the pasty, and he must have burnt his gullet.
That was his comeuppance, was it?
Yeah, it must have really hurt.
I'm gonna get you, seagull. Did you go back and get another one? Did you at least have?
No. I was just walking like that,
just in shock. Just felt fully
done by a seagull.
I'll try and compose myself. But no, Dan, honestly, I really, really appreciate you coming on today. And it's been fun catching up and reminiscing. I feel bad that we haven't caught up in that much time. But for sure, I'm definitely going to come down to the skate park for whenever the grand opening is. And hopefully it all goes swimmingly and all things go to plan. And I look forward to coming down to your skate shop and checking out what you're doing film there. For sure, I'll definitely be one of the first people signed up to coming and playing with some developing stuff because I've not had the chance to do that yet.
All right, good stuff.
Good man. Well, Dan, again, thank you very much. Just for the audience listening back home, thank you very much for tuning in this week. Any other questions, feel free to hit Dan up via his Instagram and stuff, for myself included. We're going to be on iTunes and Spotify as a matter of urgency. I believe it's happening almost as we speak. This episode will be probably up tomorrow. If you want to check into it, and I know that it's not going to give anyone any context depending on when you're listening to it, but we're going to be on iTunes and Spotify really soon. So thank you very much for CVP for having us on again and giving us this platform to actually have a conversation. Dan, again, thank you very much, dude. Thank you for giving the audience your time today on a Wednesday afternoon. Go and hang out with your kids and your wife and enjoy the rest of your birthday celebrations, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, buddy.
Cheers. Bye.
See you, bud.